Good morning. Welcome to the Garden Show on a crisp but beautiful Saturday morning in October. I'm Andy Brownell, along with Scott Moon from Sargent on 2nd. Ready to take your calls right now at 282-1234. The lines are open. It's a fantastic time to get in. It's going to be a beautiful day to be outside working on the yard. It is.
It's a little chilly this morning, but it's going to warm up nicely.
It was 29 at the airport, so you tell me. Is that a killing frost?
That was a killing frost, yes.
My house, there wasn't any frost on the ground at
really?
All
right.
On the windshield, but not on the ground, so it must have weird.
Yeah, it was pretty white. I live closer out by the airport area there, and but over by Zumbro Fields by Bamber Valley School.
Sure.
White as white could be, and the soccer players are all on the sideline waiting to play soccer. And
they were out early.
They were out.
I saw a bus at Mayo High School. They were loading up the kids at 5 a.m. to go off someplace. I think that might have been cross country. I think they have a section thing going on today. Okay, we've got calls, so we're going to get on to business. 282-1234 is a number. Good morning. You're on the Garden Show.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I've just cut back my terribly mildew peonies. Should I spray that area with a fungicide now, or will it not do any good?
It really isn't going to do you any good. That, the mildew, it won't last over the winter months.
Okay.
The important thing would be is if this is always an annual problem, every year it's coming back and you're getting mildew, then next spring would be the time that you'd want to spray your plant. When it gets, out of the ground at about that 6 to 8 inch size, you could spray your plant with a product called Funganil. And you would spray it then, wait a couple weeks, spray it again, and then that should take care of the any type of powdery mildew that you are getting on the leaves of the plant.
Oh, great. Fantastic. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks a lot for your call. We do have one line open, 282-1234. Good morning. You're on with Scott Moon from Sargent on 2nd.
I have some tomatoes that I picked. What's a good way to keep them? You're not supposed to put them in the refrigerator, I heard.
Is there anything wrong with putting them in the fridge?
I don't think there is, but, they say you shouldn't do that. You can either let them, during the, once you've picked them, you can let them set, out on your patio table inside your house and let them ripen on their own. Some people, if you're trying to get them to ripen, put them in a brown paper bag and, just fold the paper bag over. They say that will get them to ripen quicker as well. So those would be the two methods that I would recommend you do.
Yeah, these are all ripe already.
Oh, these are all ripe. Okay. Well, you better start eating.
I'm working on it.
Or put them in the fridge.
If you put them in the fridge for, 2-3 days, I think you'll be fine, sir.
Okay, thank
you. You're welcome.
I got chided for that, by the way.
Did you?
Because Rich Peterson told me, and apparently Rich is the expert on tomatoes today, that if I put them in the fridge, they lose their flavor.
They do. They probably do, and I think over a longer period of time, they probably really lose their flavor. And a tomato grown in a garden,
right,
versus the store-bought tomatoes.
I'm talking about garden tomatoes.
The garden tomatoes.
Good stuff.
The good stuff. I think you are going to lose some flavor, but I don't think you're going to lose it all in just a couple days.
Okay.
But I don't want to. If Rich thinks that's the thing, that's right.
Okay, I have another question.
All right.
Okay, go ahead.
What's a good firm apple? I have an apple peeler, and some of these soft ones, they just sort of fall apart before they get through the peeler.
Sure. Well, Honeycrisp is a very crisp apple, and it does peel very, very well. It's a Minnesota apple. It's a very firm apple. I guess I would call it a sweet, tangy taste to it. That one's a very good one. Harrelson is another crisp apple that peels very well. And those would be my top two choices as, easy to peel and stay firm and don't get mushy on you.
Yeah, didn't the Honeycrisp guys get another one out now, a newer one? Or something?
Yeah, I think it's called snow sweet or sweet snow, and that one, you don't see it a lot in the grocery stores, but you do see it a lot at, quite a few of the local orchards being sold. But you cannot buy that particular new one on the market to plant in your own yard.
Is that the University of Minnesota developed stuff?
Yep, they want to keep that one to themselves.
I haven't seen that in the stores either, no.
Yeah, but if you go to the store, you'll definitely see Harrelson. Even the Harrell Red is a very crisp one, or the Honey Crisp. All three of those are very good. The Honey Crisp will probably be the most expensive by the pound.
It is good, though.
But it is darn good.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
It is noticeably more expensive.
Yes.
You better eat them up, that's for sure. Good morning. You're on the Garden Show.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm working on watering in my evergreens for the winter, like you've always suggested, and they're pretty tall. They're, I bet, 50 feet tall.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I water them in good. I'm noticing that inside the branches, they're yellow and they fall off the needles. Is that normal?
It is normal.
Okay.
It's just they're third-year needles, and this time of year you do see it. Some years it's a little more noticeable than other years, but it's just a normal process that they will just drop those needles, and by next spring they're all gone, and you wouldn't notice it at all that there was something wrong, and there isn't anything wrong with your tree, but it's not dying. It's just a normal process.
Do new needles grow in there then?
New needles will not grow where the old needles drop, but
okay.
As that tree grows and those branches get longer, so those inner needles are just dropping as a natural process.
Okay.
So you're fine.
And then I noticed some of the lower branches, they're starting to get thinner.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, probably okay to cut those off at some point, the low branches?
Yeah, you can cut those off, and you can certainly do it now. And the only time, and let me put it this way: you can do it really any time. But if you do it in the springtime, you're going to see that sap is going to run a lot quicker. So if you do it now, it'll dry itself out over the winter months, and you might get just a little bit of weeping, but nothing too terrible. If you don't want to have really any weeping at all, after about the middle of June through the end of August, you won't get any weeping whatsoever.
Okay, great.
Okay, thank you.
Bye.
Thanks a lot for the call. 282-1234 is our number for the Garden Show with Scott Moon from Sargent on 2nd. 27 past 8 o'clock in the morning. We do have a couple lines open if you want to get in before the news break. Now's a great time. Good morning. You're on the Garden Show.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, sir. Raspberries.
Yeah.
I had a bumper crop of huge, double the size. Was it the weather? Was the way I pruned them? I don't know what happened. I'd like to do it again, but I don't know what I did to have such big and just crop after crop of raspberry. And the funny part is they grew under my fence from my neighbors a year or two ago, or three, and so I got them for free. So
yeah.
You probably shouldn't have told us that. He might be listening and want them back.
He might be listening.
Yeah. It was a good year for raspberries, and I think it was more, just we had a lot of rain at the right times, and the temperatures were not overly warm, and so the growing conditions were ideal. And it's if you did absolutely nothing different than you've done in the past, I would really say it was weather conditions that really made the big difference. What also makes a difference too is as those raspberry plants get established and the plants get older and they're sending out more shoots, you just are going to get a nicer crop from that plant versus a brand new raspberry plant that you may have put in just this spring. So that makes a difference too. But weather conditions really play a big role in it. In years past, the last couple of years where we've been a lot drier during the summer months, and we're not getting enough moisture, those berries, you still get berries, but they just are a little bit smaller, not as plump, and that makes the difference.
What about the pruning? What should I forget what I did. It seems like my neighbor, he chops them right down to the ground. Mm-hmm. That's it.
Yeah. Some people will do, exactly that, where they'll chop them down to the ground and let them come right on back the next following spring. Some people take those older canes, the real thick canes, out just by pruning those all the way down to the ground. And then those newer, younger canes, they prune by a third or a half just to bring them so they're not bending over and they're, maybe standing 2.5 feet tall. Both seem to work.
Good points. Good points, Scott. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Very, very much. Those are good points. I know I did something. I didn't get around to pruning them till I think it was the spring. And like you say, there was those big old dead ones, and I ripped those right out of there, and that might have been a factor.
Sure.
Yeah, well,
let's hope you can do it again next year.
Yeah, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
For the call. 282-1234. We have one line open. We have a news break coming up. Good morning. You're on The Garden Show.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Say, I have 2 large mum plants in big pots. They're beautiful.
Yeah.
And I like to winter them over. I keep my garage at about 40 degrees. Can that be done?
No, it really can't. Your chances of survival are not real good. I have seen people do it. However, depending on what kind of mum plant you have, there's 2 different types of plant that plants of mums for outdoor mums that people sell in their garden centers. One is a hardy Minnesota hardy mum, and the other one is they call it a Belgian type mum. The Belgian type mums are loaded with flowers more so than what the Minnesota hardy ones are. They're a little bit smaller flowers, but they have more of them.
I see.
And if it's that type of plant, chances are absolutely nil that if you kept it in a pot in your garage to come back next year, probably not. The Minnesota hardy mum may do that.
Well, what would I do? Cut the blooms off before I put it in the garage?
Yep, I would cut the blooms off, and you probably cut the plant back by about 2/3, so it's just going to be pretty small. And you want to cut back. You can bring it in. You don't want it to dry out to bone dry. However, you do want to keep a little bit of moisture in that pot, but not overly wet.
Yeah.
And see what happens next spring. You're out nothing if you have room in your garage.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Is it the air temperature, even that 40 degrees, that will take them out?
Yes, but some plants even, they need to kind of go through that, perennials and trees and shrubs, they need to go through that dormancy period. And when they never really do, that makes a huge difference as well. Although, I have... People do keep annuals over year after, for several years.
Eventually,
but eventually they do let go. So,
okay, we're going to take a quick break for news. Scott Moon from Sargent's on Second will be right back after the news break, and we'll take more of your calls at 282-1234. In fact, all the way up to almost 9 o'clock this morning, we'll be doing that on the Garden Show on KROC-AM. Good morning and welcome back to the Garden Show. I'm Andy Brownell with Scott Moon from Sargent's on Second. 282-1234 is the phone number, and usually we say it's time to call about everything green and growing. But after the hard freeze, I guess it would be everything wilting and needing to be cleaned out.
I'm sure there'll be some of those annuals looking a little peaked this morning when they walk out onto their deck or lawn.
I have a neighbor who has just got this... just gorgeous what she does. I can't believe the amount of work that she puts into this thing, but it's worth it because it is just beautiful what she does with the flowers and her lawn and all the other. And I saw last night she didn't cover them.
Okay,
but she might have lucked out in my neighborhood.
Maybe.
For some reason I didn't see the frost. 282-1234 is the number. We do have a couple lines open. Time to get those calls in if you have a question for Scott Moon from Sargent's on Second. Good morning. You're on the Garden Show.
Yeah, Scott.
Yeah.
I was wondering, is it okay to put mulch around trees this time of year, or should you not do that?
No, you can certainly put mulch around the trees. You want to, when you're mulching the trees, you want to put about 3 to 4 inches of the bark around the trees. You also, the bark can touch the tree, the trunk of the tree, but you don't Normally, you just don't put it as thick right up against the trunk of the tree. You maybe put about an inch close. When you get close to the trunk, only have it at about an inch thick.
Kind of like a donut? Maybe?
Kind of a donut shaped around that, just to pull that bark away. But other than that, it's fine to do this time of year. Anytime, really, any time of the year, you can certainly do that.
All right.
Okay?
Thank you.
You're
Thanks a
welcome.
lot.
Thank you.
Take care.
We have a couple lines open, but we do have a caller ready as well. 282-1234 is the number. Good morning. You're on with Scott Moon from Sargent on 2nd. Hello. Good morning.
Hello.
Hi.
there.
Hi. I have a poinsettia left over from last Christmas.
Oh, my.
It's full of green leaves. How can I get flowers?
Well, poinsettias do need to be tricked into getting those leaves to turn red, and they need to go through. You need to trick them that way, and by doing that, you need to start. And if you do this, you'll probably get it to flower, but it might not be till after Christmas. Normally, you have to do it starting in about the end of August, beginning of September time frame, or even earlier for shading. They need to go through about a period for, maybe about 3 to 4 weeks of 12 hours of sunlight or light, and then 12 hours of darkness. And
so daytime you put it in the sun, and at night you put it to sleep.
Put it to sleep and put it in your and it's dark.
Okay.
So that's the
and
key.
And for how long do you do that?
You do that for at least 3 weeks.
At least 3 weeks.
Yes, ma'am.
And then I can leave it out.
Then you can leave it out in the sun
and see what happens.
Yep.
Okay. I also have a pear tree.
Okay.
And it has, one side is absolutely beautiful. The shiny leaves are gorgeous. The other side does not get as much sun, and it seems like the leaves are kind of, getting spots on them. Is there anything I can do for that, or is it just normal?
Well, if it's not getting a lot of sunlight on that, if it's really shaded on that one side, that's probably going to be that would be what I would say normal, just because it's the leaves may stay more damp. They don't dry off quite as quickly during the daytime hours. So, do you do any type of spraying on your pear tree at all?
No, we do not.
Okay. Do you get a good crop of
pears?
Our
trees
or is it an ornamental
full
pear?
of white. The whole tree is all white blooms in spring. It's just like a white snowball, both of them. We have 2 of them.
Okay.
We don't get any fruit from them because they're, I don't know what they're called.
It's more of an ornamental pear tree, so it just doesn't fruit. Okay,
Yep.
I'm with you. Okay.
And the other one is fine. We have nothing with that at all, but it's just the one that gets the shade on the one side.
Sure. So what you could do in the springtime is once they start to leaf out and that leaf gets maybe a third out of the bud stage, you could spray that tree with a fungicide called Funganil.
Okay.
And then once it's fully leafed, 2 to 3 weeks later, you could spray that again, and that should take care of not all of the spottiness, but it will take care of a lot of that brown spot that you are getting on that particular side of the tree.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you so much
You're
for
welcome.
your time.
No problem.
Thanks for the call.
Bye-bye.
What I find fascinating about the poinsettias is that somebody figured that out.
Yeah.
When you go,
these growers that grow the poinsettias, they have shading systems set up in their greenhouses. So it's,
somewhere along the line, somebody noticed, hey.
Yeah,
if
we
leaves
do this.
Good morning. You're on the Garden Show.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
I have a question about, I have 2 Korean lilacs, the round tree, and my question is it too late to trim them, or is still okay?
Sure. If you want them to bloom next spring, it's too late to prune them.
Oh.
If you don't care about the bloom, which I'm sure you do, then you really need to wait. The best time to prune, if you want them to flower the following season, is right after they're done blooming. Then go ahead and cut them back or prune them to the shape or size that you want. Then that bud will, because that bud sets up about 6 weeks later, it starts producing that bud for next year. So it's really, if you need to do some light trimming here and there, you're probably not going to notice a lack of blooms on that. But if you're really going to, take it down even 6-8 inches, you are not going to get much for bloom. You might get a little bloom at the bottom, but you're not going to get anything on top of that plant in the springtime.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thanks for your call. 282-1234. We do have a line open. Good morning. You're on the Garden Show.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, moonflowers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I brought them in 3-4 days ago, and wow, they're blooming. They got those great big 4 or 5 inch blooms on them,
Mm-hmm.
But they only bloom when the moon at night.
Right.
They bloom at night, and then they're all done. So, but they keep coming forth with more blooms. But I suppose you don't want to hear. I should apologize to you because they're annuals, but you can trick them. And I don't know if they'll. Do you think they'll bloom all winter then? If I get them right in the direct sunlight there.
No, I don't. You'll probably get another week to 2 weeks out of that plant to continue to bloom if it had some, those buds set. But chances of it doing it all winter are pretty slim. Annuals just don't appreciate being inside, unless you really have some greenhouse growing conditions. But also the biggest thing is, as we continue on towards winter here and we get less and less sunlight, even though they bloom at nighttime, you get less and less sunlight, that plant is just going to start shutting itself down. So it's not going to be putting out that growth, and it just won't bloom all winter long.
I see. What about, I'm sure 95% of the people listening do not know what a moonflower is. Maybe you could tell them what it is.
Well, moonflower is an annual. You normally, can get that by a seed. Yes, it does bloom at nighttime. It comes as a white flower. It's a beautiful plant. It's not a real popular plant. You don't see a lot of them, planted out in gardens. But it's
because you got to get up in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
To see them.
But it is a nice looking plant that normally gets in that 2.5 feet range, roughly somewhere in there in height. And yeah, it's a great flowering plant that can certainly be added to your annual beds around your landscape.
Okay.
What about those growing heat lamps? Could I get one of those and spur it on a little bit?
You certainly could try that. You certainly could.
You're going to wear them out anyway, right?
Yeah, you're going to wear them out.
Thanks a lot for the call.
Thanks a lot, yeah.
Good morning. You're on the Garden Show with Scott Moon from Sargent's on 2nd.
Hello.
Hi there. Good morning.
Can you tell me, is it too late to plant a pear tree yet?
No, you can still do that. You can plant really any of the trees and shrubs and evergreens, perennials, up until, into November.
Okay.
So you're fine. This is a really good time to plant. So
anything special I need to do other than, of course, keeping that watered and really make sure it gets watered. Do you believe in spraying shrubs and trees with that? What is it called? Freeze-all, or it's supposed to help prevent getting that winter burn?
Yeah, that you would. The wilt proof or wilt stop is a product. Yep, that can help with winter burn, and yes, I do believe in it. That it does help, but you really only need to use that on evergreens or on boxwood, not trees.
Right, not trees.
So
I just know I had some by the house that got kind of winter burn last year. I wondered if that would really help. So I can certainly plant that pear tree now, and
you bet.
Okay.
And the watering wise, they're not. They're still going to take up water, and it's still a good idea to water. But when we're having these cooler temperatures like we are, and we'll continue to have, your watering habits really can slow down to, just on that tree, set your hose at a slow trickle and let it moisten up for about 15 minutes. And then you can do it about on a weekly basis, and you'll be fine.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks a lot for the call. And always that reminder, right? The planting, you leave that one root, the lateral root.
The lateral root.
Almost exposed?
Yes, you do. The big thing with tree planting is that, you need to look for that lateral root, which is really the first root that you will see that's going out laterally. But you see it as you when you take your plant out of the pot you will pull that soil away, and you'll start seeing a root flare. So the trunk starts to get fatter down there, flaring out. And you continue down until you see that first root. That is really the top of the plant, and that's where you want it, at the top of the ground.
Okay. 282-1234. We have a busy day on the phones. Good morning. You're on the Garden Show.
Yeah, I have a question on dormant grass seeding.
Sure.
Is now a good time to do it?
It is a great time to go ahead and do it, yes. You prepare your soil bed or your seed bed like you normally would, of getting at least a couple inches of soft dirt raked up, softened up. Go ahead and put your grass seed down, lightly rake it. You can water it in if you want, but we're going to get moisture now until till April, so that's not a huge deal. And if it's an area that has some erosion to it, you may want to consider putting down some straw, a light layering of straw to help hold the erosion down. And next spring, when the temperatures start to raise, you should see grass seed germinating.
What about not working it into the soil? I've got fairly good grass, but I want to try to thicken it up. Mm-hmm. Can I just, put it on top? Will it work its way in through the winter?
Sure. It will work its way into during the winter months, especially if you're just doing some overseeding in existing grass. That is a little bit harder to try to soften up the ground. But if you just throw grass seed in existing grass and that grass is quite thick around it, it's pretty hard for that seed to really find soil. So those spots that you're trying to hit, if they're I'm going to say bigger than a softball size in diameter, just lightly raking those little spots up will make a huge difference in getting that seed to germinate quicker.
So I just be wasting my seed if I put it over fairly thick grass.
If you put it over fairly thick grass, you're just wasting your seed.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
and also just from personal experience, don't buy the cheap seed.
No, don't buy the cheap seed.
Because I've been doing battle for 2 years against the effects of the cheap seed and the stuff that was mixed in with it, other than the grass seed. Good morning. You're on the Garden Show.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Back to moonflowers.
Yeah.
Had some and they all froze off. Now, do I have to throw some of those little round seed pods on the ground, or how do I get it to reseed itself?
Yeah, if you just let those seed pods sit on the ground.
Do I have to cut them off the plant?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Just throw a couple down and they should reseed.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thanks for the call. Good morning. You're on the Garden Show with Scott Moon from Sargent on 2nd.
Yeah, I missed the beginning of the show, and I wondered if you talked about fertilizing the lawn the last time now before winter.
The winterizer.
Winterizer, yes.
Yeah. We haven't mentioned anything about winterizer today, but yes, this is a good time to get the winterizer fertilizer down.
Okay.
You can do that any time now.
The rest of the month is still okay?
Yes, it is. Okay. It is.
And then the other question, what if last month I went around and I sprayed the weed killer I did 2 applications. Is that going to will one interfere with the other?
No, it will not interfere with the fertilizer working whatsoever. You'll be fine, and it's not going to affect the weed control. So they work with each other. You'll be fine.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
But just don't put down the weed and feed, right?
Right. Weed and feed would be different. But if you're spraying, spot spraying, or spraying your lawn for broadleaf weeds such like dandelions, creeping Charlie, you can still do that.
All right. We've got about 5 minutes left in the program. We've got full phone lines, 282-1234. Good morning. You're on with Scott Moon.
Hi, Scott.
Hi.
Just wondering a couple questions. Does it need to say winterizer fertilizer on the bag, or can it be all season? Because I have a bag that says that can be put down in all seasons.
Well, do you know what the analysis is on the fertilizer?
I don't offhand.
Okay. I guess, I would caution you to put it down if the analysis, if you read the back of the bag on the analysis, if it talks about urea, if it has a large amount of urea in it, then I would not do it this time of year. And the winterizer, you do have nitrogen in it, but it's not a large amount, and it breaks itself down right now, and they'll start using some of that. But then next spring, it really starts picking it back up and helps flush that new growth out quicker. If you're not sure, just take a look at the bag and give us a call. We could certainly talk it through and see if that's will work for you. I don't know all the fertilizers that are out there, but we just want to make sure you put the right product on.
Right, and when you say large amount, can you?
If it's over like you might have an analysis that maybe says 12, 0, 14, and then underneath that it breaks down. On that 12 is nitrogen. It'll say, okay, what kind of nitrogen is all in there. And if it has more than about 5 or 6% urea, then that's a little too much.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. And then my second question was, I have maybe 5 different areas of my yard that are rather bumpy.
Okay.
They've sunken a bit. Would the best thing to be to wait until spring to till them up, throw some soft dirt on, fertilizer, and the seed now, or in the spring?
Yeah, you can really do it any time. Dormant seeding, because what you put down now is not going to germinate until next spring.
Right.
But it'll be fine to do that. If it's an area that's going to have a lot of erosion, then I probably would say wait till next spring. But if it's a flatter area where it's runoff isn't going to be huge, go ahead and do it now. It's sometimes easier to do it now in the fall time when the ground is relatively dry and you can get out there in the yard versus waiting till spring. That grass seed will germinate quite a bit earlier, and then you can still, if you put down, let's say, a crabgrass preventer, you still can get that crabgrass preventer down on that new seed once it's up and germinating. If you do it in the springtime, you may not be doing it till the middle of May, and then you have to wait till the end of May to try to put down a preventative, and then you're kind of getting too late.
Okay, that's a good idea. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks a lot for the call. Good morning. You're on the Garden Show.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I have a question for you. I got from your garden center a beautiful water lily this summer, and I'm wondering now how to care for that over winter.
Is your pond very deep, or what? Did you keep it on your deck in a small little container? How was it growing?
In a pond. The deepest part is about 4 feet deep.
Okay. If at 4 feet deep, you can literally, is the water lily at that 4 foot level now, or is it in the upper part?
It's in the upper part.
Okay. If you put it down in that lower part, if you can get it down, if it's below 3 feet, it'll survive.
Okay.
And then you can bring it back up or just let it grow from there next spring. Or you can pull them out now. Depending on the size of the pot, you could cut all the foliage back, put it in a 5-gallon bucket, and you just want to fill that you don't want to cover you don't have to cover the pot in water, but you want to keep so there's water in there, and then just put it in wherever, your laundry room or the basement where it's cool and dark, and it'll just go into the dormant stage, and then in the springtime you can bring it back out and put it back in your pond. But 4 feet deep, it will survive.
But trim it if I just keep it in the pond, or just put it down?
Just put it down and it'll be fine. You can certainly trim it. That's fine too. Otherwise, those leaves and stems will eventually rot and float up to the top.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Right.
Thanks
for the call. And unfortunately, we are out of time for the Garden Show today.
Yeah.
Busy day, folks.
It was.
Call us back next week as well. Hopefully it'll be another beautiful weekend. Scott Moon from Sargent on 2nd. Thanks for being here.
You're welcome.
See you next Saturday.
Sounds good.
KROC-AM.